Hello and welcome to Times Aerospace TV's Insight programme, where we take a deep dive into an organisation or a product to get the story behind the news and talk to the leaders of those businesses or organisations. With IDEX close on the horizon, we're looking at the United Kingdom, a long-term ally of the host United Arab Emirates, and indeed some 50% of the UK's defence exports is with GCC states. But the UK has had a pressurised couple of years with the run-up to its divorce from the European Union in the so-called Brexit, and has seen its defence and aerospace industry, the second largest in the world, battered harder than most by the COVID pandemic. And at the same time, here in the Middle East, we're seeing a new approach to doing business as part of the visions of the GCC leaders. So where does all that leave Britain? Well, who better to tell us than is our guest for the programme, Mark Goldsack. Now, Mark is the head of the UK Defence and Security Exports at Britain's Department for International Trade. He spent 30 years in the British Army before joining the DTI and joins us now from London. I just mentioned the recent pressures on the UK. Are we going to see any difference in the UK's appetite for trade and partnership, especially in the defence sector?
Well, thank you. Really great pleasure to be here today, and great pleasure to be talking to you on today as we run into IDEX and as we look, if you like, at the new trading relationships that you just described that are sitting out across the world. And I guess the first point I probably ought to make is that, of course, defence as a topic, as a set of discussions, rarely sits inside FTAs and rarely sits inside those sorts of negotiated trade outcomes. As a sector, we've always been international. We've always looked overseas. And therefore, for us, what we actually see is even more opportunity than we've ever seen before, because we will continue to do what I think we've always sought to do with our partners, which is to reach out to them and operate with them as partners, not as co-competitors, not as customers or suppliers, but as partners.
So with partnership in mind, I guess you can't wait to get out here for IDEX.
Well, absolutely. And, again, I take my hat off to all those involved in the events industry over the recent period, given the challenges it's had to face. And as we look forward to IDEX, it's going to be no mean achievement to deliver that in the face of the pandemic. The fact that it is going ahead, the fact that we are able to look forward to what I think will be a really exciting show, it is a testament to two things, I think. First of all, is the resilience of this sector of industry, which has been determined to work through the challenges that we've seen and find that curiously hybrid mixture of solutions to not being able to mix in the traditional manner. So, I think we will be able to come together. I think we'll be augmented by a lot of virtual engagement as well. But the most important thing is that we're taking a show that's always been a very significant part of the global stage as far as this sector is concerned. And we'll be picking up on it at a moment when it's never mattered more to the global supply chain to be able to talk to each other, understand where each other sits at the moment in terms of the impact of COVID, of budgets, of the various global challenges that we see, and then to talk to each other about solutions. And from a UK perspective, I'm really looking at getting three messages across this year. The first is to just emphasize our well-known reputation as a world-class innovator. UK science and technology has always led the world. We've always been out there selling innovative product, whether it be service-driven, whether it be product-driven, whether it's equipment-driven. And we remain in that position. And never has that been more important when we're looking at the combined challenges of the global security situation and COVID. To be really innovative at the way we look at the challenges that we face. The second piece is to also make sure that the world sees us as we see ourselves, which is a really valuable partner to work with when you're dealing with not just collaboration on defence projects, but wider research and development that relates into that space as well. And I think the global partnership that we represent has always recognised that the sheer effort required in remaining at that front edge of innovation is so great. You need to do that in lockstep with your peers, with your partners, with those that you work with the most closely. Because unless you do that, the burden becomes unmanageable on your own. And we have always discovered that whenever you work effectively as a partner, you actually get an exponential increase in output from the project. So for us, that partnership piece remains fundamentally important. And I guess the third point I'd make in this whole piece is that we remain, the global investment destination of choice. The figures show that they've not been anything other than positive, despite all of the challenges that we've described in the interview so far. And the fact that we offer a stable, major global economy in which you can invest into a whole broad range of sectors, possibilities, and innovations makes us increasingly attractive as a global hub. And of course, feeds that ability to then export those services, those products, those innovations that come from that investment. So across the piece, Britain is standing out there. We're standing tall as a trading nation with a really proud history of what we've delivered in the past in the defence sector, and a very, very exciting offer, I think, for the future as we build those partnerships that exist, build new partnerships, and continue to support close friends and allies across the globe.
So co-development, collaboration, two-way international cooperation, particularly in research and development. All that ties in very nicely with the UAE's vision to enhance industrial relationships with its partners. Now, do you see the UK's position in supporting this strategy actually working with Emirati companies?
Absolutely. And, I'm delighted to say that over the past year, we've seen a real uptick in the way that we're engaging across the board, not just in terms of the one-to-ones, which you see in government. And of course, we remain incredibly close to the UAE government as a whole. We have a very close set of relationships from our Prime Minister downwards with all of the key members of the government. But it's not just about government. It's about how we link up industry to industry. It's how we link up our industrial dialogues. And it's how we join together to look for those opportunities where there's a win-win. And I think that really is the characterization of how things need to go as we go forward, is everybody, given the scale of investment that goes on in the defence space, needs to see that benefit come back, not just in capability terms, but also in prosperity terms into their own economy. We see that on a daily basis with a mixture of Emirati companies across the cyber and defence spaces. It's a set of benefits that I think both sides will benefit from hugely in the long term as we work out where each other's strengths lie and where the correct point is to create joint IP that genuinely gives you that confidence in the supply chain I was referring to earlier. And I think it's that real recognition that, unlike many of our competitors, we do offer that ability to create joint IP with us, where you can genuinely share in the investment and genuinely share in the security that comes from it. We don't wrap what we're doing in a regulatory process. And because the companies that we're working with on the UK side are all privately owned, they genuinely own their IP and are able to discuss those relationships with their Emirati counterparts in a very, very profound way.
And so, Mark, do you see real progress with new deals?
What am I seeing as we talk about that? Well, we've seen under our Trade Commissioner Simon Penny in the UAE a resurgence of this cross-economic discussion taking place in all sectors, not just defence. And that's been particularly complemented in the defence area by a set of initiatives where we're discussing with Edge a variety of areas where we think there's a real sweet spot for mutual investment, co-creation of IP, and that development of a relationship that goes way beyond that of a supplier and a customer, and starts to create that sort of trust that delivers you that genuine edge, if you excuse the pun there, that you're looking for when you put money into these sorts of projects.
Well, we've talked about the UAE, Mark, but how important is the GCC relationship as a whole, and Saudi Arabia in particular, in the context of defence engagement and exports from the UK?
Well, I think, it goes without saying that we remain closely engaged across the region. And of course, the GCC are a key part of that. So they are central. And you've seen, I think, from just the public speeches that have occurred, the visits that have occurred over the past 12 to 18 months, just how determined the British government is to make sure that we do stay very close to our closest friends and allies around the world. The GCC is part of that network. It's a really key part of it for us. We are strategic partners, and we have always recognized that with our key partners, an essential part of any relationship is working out how we end up co-producing. So whichever our partners we're talking about, in this case, it's the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, that ability to stand alongside, to co-develop, to share, to create that joint industrial ambition, I think is an incredibly important step forward.
Well, the UK announced at the end of last year, I think, a huge £30 billion or $45 billion investment in defence for research and development and innovation. Now, is that going to be drawn down into these partnerships?
So that governmental investment announcement was incredibly significant, not just for us domestically, but for us internationally as well. And I think it's given a real confidence in all of our relationships that we're very, very serious about maintaining our global leading edge in defence technology.
So that's things like future combat air systems, the Type 31 frigate, for example. These are the sort of projects that the UK is now offering.
Absolutely. And you can see that reach out taking place on a daily basis. You can see the excitement that's being generated in the global defence press when they're looking at the nature of these projects and what they could offer for the future. And I think when you look at it on a global basis, it becomes very clear just how important developing, nurturing, creating these technological partnerships become to the health and future of all of those programs.
Mark, thank you for your time, and we look forward to seeing you in the UK Industry Pavilion at IDEX and seeing you closing some of those partnership deals. Well, that's it. So we're looking forward to that, and we're also looking forward to our news program, which is going to be happening every 2 weeks on this same place. So do tune in and see us then. Thank you.